What's up, YouTube? Today, we're going to be talking about Tariq Nasheed versus Charlemagne the God and the white boy Schultz, Andrew Schultz. I think that's what his name is. All right. First, I want to say that it started off kind of slow, whatever, but the boy Schultz got bodied. He kept trying to deflect and trying to use code words but pretty much at the end of the interview, you will see that he pretty much proves Tariq Nasheed's case that we are under this system of white supremacy, and the Schultz dude keeps admitting that we are, yes, under the system of white supremacy, but then he just wants to use different words like it's systematic and it's not. I won't different. He admitted in one breath, but then he'll deny it and say, "Oh, that's not necessarily white supremacy." But then he just admitted it. Like, for example, uh, he says, "Oh, you didn't. You're trying to disrespect Oprah because you're saying that she didn't earn her way in there because whatever white supremacy." Because you're trying to downplay her achievements by saying that it's white supremacy. But then in the next breath, he says, "Well, she probably had to work harder than anybody else in that position." And then Tariq Nasheed says, "Because what? Because of white supremacy." So like, and then another example, he says they're talking about meth, and they're talking about how white people is 5 times the amount of white people in this country than it is black people, but it's not 5 times as many white people in prison than it is black people. There's more black people. There's less black people in this country, but there's more black people in prison, and there's more white people that's on meth just because it's sure 5 times more, and they're committing that crime, but they're not getting arrested. And why is that not happening? I don't know. What do you think? White supremacy. The dude got bodied, and every time he tried to come with something new, it just he was basically proving his own point. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's proving Tariq Nasheed's point. Like, they're just going around and around in circles. And I'm glad this interview happened because it kind of shows you how you have to deal with these people. But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't really think the Schultz dude learned anything. You know what I'm saying? Because he's still like in denial. He's one of these people that's in denial. Like they admit that white supremacy exists, but they don't ever want to point at anything and say that's white supremacy. They say, yeah, white supremacy exists, but they'll never point to anything and say that's white supremacy. You understand? Like if a person is getting jumped by a bunch of white people and they're black, and the person is yelling out racial slurs, he'll say, well, that's not white supremacy. See, they had some kind of personal, like, you know what I'm saying? He'll always find a reason. Like, you say, well, only reason that happened is because the demographics in the area, and you know what I'm saying, he'll find a way to say that that's not white supremacy. That's what they always do. They try to find a way to say that that's not white supremacy, at the same time admitting that white supremacy exists. So this is how you know you can't really get through to these people because they don't want to admit that it exists. While admitting that it exists, they're contradictory. Their whole mindset, you can't get through their heads, can't get to them. That argument and conversation could go on forever and forever, because every time Tariq points out that this is the system of white supremacy, the white boy admits that yes, there is a system of white supremacy, but no, that's not it. Like, what? So if there is a system of white supremacy, what's white supremacy? You know what I'm saying? He can't never point to anything and say that's white supremacy. That's how you know this dude is deflecting, and he is trying to cover up for white supremacy, because he'll admit that it exists, but he won't admit that it exists at the same time. Like, he'll admit that it exists, but nothing that white people can do can ever be considered white supremacy. But it exists, but nothing they do is considered white supremacy. So that's my thoughts on the situation. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Peace. I'm out.